Hello everyone, my name is Josh and welcome to WHIMS, and today I'm going to give you my review for the third episode of Inside Number 9 Series 9 called Mulberry Close, and the story follows a couple by the name of Damon and Val who have just moved into Number 9 of Mulberry Close, having just kind of basically overcome their own series of problems. Damon is an alcoholic or has problems with the drink, and Val has pretty much an overworked job to do effectively. It's not really clear what her job is, but you can clearly tell that she's stressed out, having to take care of her husband and having to take care of the house. We can clearly see that when, in the morning at the very beginning of the episode, after her bins have been raided by foxes, she's trying to get everything back in its place and try to keep it tidy. When a neighbour by the name of Larry decides to help her out, he gives her a bit of advice to get rid of foxes and essentially says, a brick is always something that you can use on foxes to get rid of them. And then she goes, I don't think animal control will be very happy about that. And he goes, no, you just have to put it on the lid and they won't go anywhere near it. They won't try to open it afterwards. And that's basically a bit of a dark joke, but that is something that really tells you something a bit about his character. He seems harmless at first, but then as the episode goes on, there's something else going on with this particular couple that have just moved into Mulberry Place, and when Val ends up going missing after a argument one night between her and her husband, the neighbours start to get suspicious, and they start to see him essentially, acting very kind of, twitchy and very suspicious. Not only that, but he also happens to be seen outside of his house getting rid of suitcases in his car and driving off in all hours of the night. And when the neighbours try to investigate, they almost get caught, and they try to do various different hijinks to try to make sure that they're not, sneaking around and they're not trying to, investigate him. But there's all sorts of things going on, and is there something weird going on with the new neighbours at Mulberry Close, or is there something more to this particular episode? Now, I'm just going to leave it there because I think this is an episode that I think people should watch in order to really appreciate it. But this episode was really good. I really do think it was an interesting episode in comparison to the first two episodes that we've had so far. But what I think is very interesting about this episode is, first of all, the style of the episode being filmed from a doorbell camera is a very interesting idea, because essentially there is this app on your phone that if you subscribe to this website and you get this particular doorbell camera installed, I think it's called ring.com, where effectively it has one of those weird little jingles like bing bong bong or something like that when you ring the doorbell, and it's a very weird device, but you can essentially, if you have one of those things installed, you have an app on your phone where basically if the doorbell goes and you're not in the house, you can actually look on your phone and see who's coming into your house and who's basically either delivering packages or probably visiting, not really realising that you're out or that you're not in. And you can basically monitor your house from the outside without having to actually be in the house, if that makes sense. And it's such a very weird app, but it's actually a very useful app, especially if you're, trying to, do other things, or if you're going shopping or whatever, and you're trying to monitor if your packages come or if a package gets delivered or something like that, or you're dealing with nosy neighbours. It's a very useful app to have. But I felt that was very interesting, that was a very good device. But what's very interesting about this particular gimmick is there is no ring.com logo on the top of the screen. It's just the very stereotypical, BBC logo. And I'm just thinking to myself, it really does add an extra layer of creepiness to it. Like, who originally installed that camera? Was it the government? Was it, the police officers at the very start of the film? Because there is stuff going on in this episode behind the scenes that do make you kind of raise your eyebrows a bit. Because, first of all, we hear about the domestic with Damon and his wife, and Val goes missing, and we're thinking to ourselves, like the neighbours are, we're very suspicious of Damon immediately, because we don't see what's going on in the house when the door closes. We only see who's visiting the house. We only see people in the periphery of the house, when we see Sheila's bad driving going by, or whenever we're seeing, Larry with his dog Popcorn and his incessant barking, or neighbours like Sheila coming up to the front door in the attempt of getting a cauliflower quiche to the neighbours as a kind gesture, when in reality they're just being nosy. Whatever it happens to be, or whether it's Sheila basically inquiring about what they're doing for the Halloween party, when in reality she's just planning on staying home and watching a Michael Ball special on the television. Did you know they met him on a cruise last year? And things like that. I really do love that little line, by the way. The fact that the neighbours do want to show that, oh yeah, we do have, you know, this celebrity connection and things like that. And they make it sound like they're old friends with Michael Ball, but they've only met him once, and that was in a very casual place, like a cruise. And it was only like a short conversation. It wasn't as if, oh yeah, they exchanged numbers afterwards. So it really is kind of funny that, oh, they're saying things like, oh yeah, we know Michael Ball, we can, you know, hook you up to him and things like that. So it is a very weird setup originally, but what you find as the story goes on is that the new neighbours aren't the ones who are weird at all. It's in fact the neighbours that are already established in Mulberry Close that do have the weirdness about them, because there is a conversation that I'm going to go into spoilers, by the way, for this episode, so if you don't want to be spoiled, please click off this video and go and watch it on iPlayer, and then come back and then watch this video to get the full sort of... I'm going to be spilling the tea on this episode because there's a lot I want to talk about. But yeah, if you don't want to be spoiled, please click off this video right now and go and watch it on iPlayer. But if you've seen it, come back. And if you have seen it, please stick around for more. But yeah, I really do think this character is very interesting. And I think what I really like about this particular episode is at first you kind of think, with the synopsis, it says, oh, there's something more to these neighbours, or there's something a bit off about these new neighbours moving into Mulberry Close. But in reality, Val and Damon are the normal people in this entire scenario. They're just basically, they've moved into this new place and they just want to settle down, they just want to relax. Val is overworked and she's clearly feeling the stress by the way she acts at the beginning of the episode when she's clearing up the mess that the foxes have made and Larry's trying to help her. You really do feel that sense of she is stressed. She is really kind of, you know, overworked. She's trying to take care of Damon. And then you realise that, oh, he's had a problem with drinking. So they have a row one night. And then we hear what we think is either Val being pushed down the stairs or him basically hitting her with something and her falling to the ground unconscious. So we're kind of watching this thinking to ourselves, we're thinking like the neighbours, like, has he killed her? Has he done something to her? Kind of like in a very traditional, you know, Hitchcockian way, like thinking to ourselves, what's actually happened? Is he guilty of murder? Is this all a misunderstanding? But then because this is in inside number 9, you're thinking to yourself, it can't be obvious that, oh, it's him committing a murder. There has to be something more to it. And then actually, it's actually really quite interesting because it turns out that Val isn't dead at all. She's just basically gone missing. And or she hasn't gone missing, she's basically gone to go and visit her sister in Halifax, and he's basically, you can clearly piece together the backstory of this couple without them saying too much, and I think that's what's really the genius of this particular episode in regards to its writing, is you get everything you need to know by just the way these characters are. You get that the neighbours are very nosy, you get that Sheila's particularly nosy because of the way she, you know, rings the doorbell on the camera doorbell. You get the feeling that, you know, that the couple, Val and Damon, are very normal in comparison to their neighbours by the way they interact with Sheila at Halloween. She basically has a very dismissive and very kind of judgmental attitude to Damon and Val's lifestyle, with the fact that they eat takeaways all the time. And there's even that joke that Damon makes about, you know, them going to the party. The man on the rack, the skeleton prop on the rack, can't go with them because he's got no body to go with. Ha ha. And then she just sort of goes, oh, I see. And then she just sort of leaves as if, oh, that's just something that he deliberately, you know, was very serious about. And I just thought that was a bit weird. And I thought, clearly there's something going on with the neighbours. Clearly the neighbours have nothing better to do, or they're just weird themselves. But what's very interesting is that when you find out that Val isn't really missing at all, something else happens when she returns to the house. We get this little image of essentially someone outside Val and, not Val and Sheila, Sheila and Ken's address, about to go and drive in a car. when in reality, we go back to that footage and we find out that Val is a notoriously bad driver. We even see a moment where a car, we think it's a random car, but then we find out that, oh, it's Sheila's car because it's pulling out of the driveway of their home, and she's literally driving. She's literally doing that thing where first-time drivers are basically cruising along, and then they'll stop, and then they'll drive on again, and then they'll stop, and then they'll drive on again. And it's such a very weird thing, but that's actually very intentional because that comes back when we find out that Popcorn, the dog of Larry, next door neighbour, is found in the bin of number 9, and he thinks that Val has poisoned him and essentially put him in the bin. And it's very weird because there wasn't any kind of indication that she had any malice towards Popcorn or anything like that, or any of the neighbours, or even Damon. Damon didn't really threaten his dog or anything like that. So it is very weird that that Larry would immediately accuse Val, even though Val has been gone for such a long time. It really feels weird that that he would make that sort of assumption about her, even though she's only, you know, been his neighbour for a couple of weeks and she's been gone for a good period of time. So there's no real hint that anything like that's happened. But then we realise that when the suspicions fall on Damon, it was Larry who reported him to the police, and him who basically reported the crime, and the police, you know, coming to his place of work, and he actually threatens Larry, but he immediately turns on Val, even though she had nothing to do with it, and then he just goes into the house, kills her with a brick, and then basically just leaves and carries the dog Popcorn home with him. And I'm thinking to myself, well, that was weird. But then we cut back to the footage we cut back to more footage of Damon being arrested for the murders, and Val saying, oh yeah, we knew it was him the entire time, he was very weird. And, you know, if they make a Netflix documentary about it, can we have, you know, Michael Ball as the voiceover? We know him, you know, we met him on a cruise last year. And I thought, oh, for God's sake, Sheila, shut the hell up about Michael Ball, for goodness sake. It's not as if you met him and now you're best buds. You literally met him for 5 minutes. And I thought that was hilarious. But yeah. And then we have someone filming on the side of the road, and they come up to the address and they say, has anyone checked the footage on this doorbell cam? And that's when we get the final piece of the puzzle. Well, who killed Popcorn then, if it wasn't the couple, and if it wasn't, you know, Damon? Who killed Popcorn? And then it's revealed that Sheila accidentally ran over Popcorn while she was driving out of the house, seemingly in a very weird time of day, in the middle of the night. She decides to drive out and go somewhere, but then she runs over the dog. And instead of actually leaving the dog where he is, she decides to put him in the bin of number 9s. And it's like, what's going on there? And then it's revealed that, oh yeah, this is actually meant to be the start of the Netflix crime series, The Mulberry Murders. I've been Michael Ball, and this is The Mulberry Murders. And I thought that was very weird because they use the term Mulberry Murders, plural, and part of me just feels like, okay, this ties into my point about the doorbell. But what I want to say is, that's very weird, because to me, it's kind of almost hinting at, you know, there's more than one murder. Unless we're counting the dog, Popcorn, that's a very weird thing to say, because usually that you'd consider, you know, the murder of, say, a person or persons as plural. But only Val was murdered, the one that we've seen. So it kind of gives me the impression that did Larry, who seems to be this very, you know, very gormless, very kind of absent-minded person, accidentally kill or intentionally kill more people? Or is there a bit of a John Reginald Christie feeling about him, where he is a lot more, you know, sinister than meets the eye? And it kind of almost brings a chill up your spine, because you're wondering, how long has he been murdering people? If this is the case, if this is the Mulberry Murders, how long has he been doing this? And how long has people in this facility gotten away with murders. And what happened to the previous tenants of number 9? Because they did hint at the very start of the episode that there were previous neighbours. So what's actually happened to them? Did they move away? Did Larry kill them? Did Sheila kill one of the cats and accidentally, put them in the bin? And it was just the same cycle over and over again where Larry thought he'd poisoned something and then killed them or something like that. Like, what happened there? And that really kind of immediately lets your mind go into overdrive, and I thought it was brilliantly done. And one of the things that I do want to say about the doorbell very quickly, who put the doorbell in? Who put the doorbell camera in? Because it's not like a Ring.com doorbell camera, and there was a reason why I brought that up, because like I said at the very beginning of this video, that app is supposed to be for people who sign up to it. So if it gets installed at your address, they put an app on your phone where if you're not in the house, let's say for example if you're going out to do shopping, or if you're going out somewhere with say for your with your family or something like that, if the doorbell goes while you're out, the phone will alert you, the app will alert you, and you'll basically have a look at who's there, and you can even speak to them through the doorbell and say, who's that at our address, like, who are you, can I help you, and things like that. And that can actually help you if you're, say for example, at risk of being burgled, or if you've got, like I said, just nosy neighbours. You can actually, just start to inquire, or if you've got visitors, you can basically talk into this app and you can talk through the phone. But there's none of that logo business, and there's no apps on that camera. So part of me realises that, were the police on to the residents of Mulberry Close or on to Larry, and that's why the camera was installed at number 9? Did Larry kill the Bensons and dispose of their bodies in his back garden? Like, what's the story there? And what's left unsaid is far more interesting. And don't get me wrong, the stuff that's said is still interesting and still funny and still entertaining. But they leave a lot of stuff out, and it really does add to the mystery of this particular story. And it really does feel almost like Steve Pemberton and Reece Shearsmith's answer to the Loch Henry episode of Black Mirror, where it is basically commenting on the true crime-obsessed aficionados of, local and rural communities, where we are basically ordinary people, but we're fascinated with being sort of like the amateur detective kind of thing. I wonder if it's basically their commentary on that, but also it's a little bit of a callback to something else that Steve and Reece have done in their careers, which is, of course, the League of Gentlemen, Are You Local? Characters from League of Gentlemen, Tubbs and Edward, who basically have the gimmick that they're deformed and they could potentially be a part of an incestuous family tree of inbreds, and they basically own a shop in Royston Vasey called the Local Shop. And if you're a out-of-towner coming into the shop, you're basically inquired as to, you're basically bombarded with questions and inquiries about where you come from. Are you local? Are you not? And if you're not, God help you, because honestly, they literally go hard on really horrible, they go really hard on non-local people. In fact, if you are a non-local person to Royston Vasey and you happen to be within the vicinity of the local shop, chances are you might die. So that's kind of the thing. And that kind of reminds me, is Sheila and Ken and Larry all working together? Are they basically, because they do mention at one point that they're part of a local watch, maybe this local watch is supposed to be like, the local people kind of thing, where sort of like a three-person band of, if you're not local, you're not welcome here kind of thing. And it really does add so many different layers to it. And I really do think that's quite fascinating. So I really do want to hear your thoughts on that. Do you think the police were on to Larry and the residents of Mulberry Close? Do you think the police installed a camera after what happened to the Bensons? Or do you think that was just basically a device that was just sort of put in there without any forethought, and that just happened to spring onto it? Because clearly someone who filmed it was a part of the police, and it really does add so many interesting questions, and it really does kind of make you kind of really appreciate it on repeat viewings. And I think this is classic Inside Number 9 in every possible respect. So yeah, I want to hear your thoughts about this episode down in the comments. And what did you think of this video? Did you like this video? And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more content like this, or any other content that I've done, I recently did a review of Late Night with the Devil, the new film on the circuit at the minute, and I want to I want to know what are your thoughts on this episode. Did you enjoy it? Did you think it was good? Did you think it had problems? Whatever your thoughts are, please comment below and be sure to let me know. And if you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more videos. This has been Josh with Whimsical and Interesting Musings, or WHIMS, and I hope you're all doing very well. Take care, bye for now.